Hi, my name is Gary Bloom. I'm the developer of WebWatch, and I'm going to give you a really quick tutorial. So, this is what the program looks like. We can enter in a URL address here, so let's start by doing that. I'm going to grab a URL out of my web browser at the bottom, paste it in, and then I'm going to say how often. I'm going to say I want to check it every 12 hours. And up here you can see there's a code, M for minutes, H for hours, D for days, X for times per day, and then when I mark this watching, that's when the program's actually going to start to watch that site. And now the site goes green because the program likes the site. It means it's gone out and it's connected to the server, so I know that the URL, the website, is good. Now I want to watch another site. So I'm going to hit a plus, then it gives me a new line. I'm going to come down here. Actually, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to WinMerge.org because we're going to need that later anyways. And this brings me to the download page of WinMerge.org. I'm going to grab that URL and I'm going to watch that one also. And then how often, I'm going to say once a day. Or I could just say 1 or 1x because 1x is 1 times a day. So I'm going to say 1 times a day. And again, I'm going to start watching that site. And again, it goes green because it likes that site. Now I'm going to do a third site, which is this time and date. I grab that. Come over here, hit the plus so I can add a new URL. And for this one, I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to say every 10 seconds. Now this is a special site. I know the site changes every single second. So I'm going to choose this one because I want to show you what actually happens when it discovers a difference. So again, I'm going to say watching, and you'll notice pretty quickly something happens. So I've said watching, and you'll notice right away that this website button went yellow. That website button going yellow means the system has detected a change. I can click that once to make the go away, and if we wait another 10 seconds, I'm sure the website will be yellow again because the program now is checking every 10 seconds on that particular website, and now it's gone yellow again. Another change. Now I can also double click on it, and that opens up the site, and I'm going to it's opened it up down here. I'm just going to maximize this now so you can see. And here we see the clock, and we see that it is every second it's advancing. So it's changing every second, and that's why that program was caught. So now I'm going to say stop watching all. This allows me to automatically stop watching all my sites at the same time. And then if I want to resume, I could say start watching all. It would start watching them all again. But what's important now is I've got 3 sites that I want to watch. I'm happy with what I've got. So I'm going to say store. Store is going to write it out to this config file, and up top you can see next to the name of the program there's a name of a file, and that's a config file, and that's actually the default config file. So by hitting store, it writes out this list of websites and how often I want to watch them into that list. In fact, I could start all, which would make the program watching all 3 of those, and I could store that, and then the program will keep in track of what websites were actually being watched when the config file was stored. So that's quick and dirty how the program works. There's one more thing. Now I have a couple of options of what I can do when the program detects a change. Again, I'm going to start watching all. Now all 3 sites are being watched again. By default, like we said, this button goes yellow, but below I do have a few other options. I can say beep on change, in which case the system will sound a beep, so in case I'm not actually looking at my program. I also can open changed page. If I select that, then anytime a page changes, it will open it up in my default browser. So let's clear it. Let's choose open changed page, and if you keep an eye down here, you'll see that when that website button goes yellow, now the site pops up here. And again, this is our same site where we see the seconds advancing every second. So first of all, that concludes the quick tutorial. There are other things I could do also, but it requires installing extra software. For example, show page diffs is very powerful. It allows me to do a difference between the text in the current version of the file and the text on the previous version that was checked. But I need to install a special program called WinMerge in order to do that. So that's why I came down here. I'm going to do that now. I am going to come up to my help menu. I'm going to say go to winmerge.org. It opens the site for me. I pop this open. I download the file. I install the file. It's installing on another screen. so you can't see it, but believe me, it's installing, and now it's installed. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this go away, and I'm going to stop watching all the pages, but I want you to pay attention to a couple things. Right now we see the show page diffs is disabled. I can't click on it, it's grayed. And there are no diffs buttons over here on each website line. But I'm going to stop my program and I'm going to restart it because now I have installed WinDiff, and so the program will automatically detect WinDiff. And now we see that my show page diffs checkbox is now enabled. It's no longer grayed out. I can select it now if I want. And here we see a diffs button on the same line where we didn't see that before. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on diffs right now so that you can see what it will do when the diffs button, well, one, WinMerge needs to be installed, and it is. When WinMerge is installed, these diffs buttons show up. And if there's something to compare it to, if I could actually run a difference right now, the button will be enabled. If it's not, it would be grayed out. But right now, these buttons are enabled. So I'm going to hit diffs, and you'll see the difference between the latest version that was stored and the previous version. So now I do this, and I see that on this page, we see a difference between 40 and 50. That's basically the number of, remember that clock on the website shows the time including seconds. This shows the difference in 40 to 50 seconds. So that's why that page was changed. I am going to stop watching. The other thing I should mention is once WinMerge is installed, I can have the software show page diffs automatically. So now I'm going to say watching, and we'll see that on its own, because you may have noticed that that website button went yellow just before it showed this, and I'm going to stop watching this. Just before it showed the diffs, we saw the website button go yellow. I'm going to click to make it white, and again, this diffs popped up on its own. The last thing I can do is I can actually tell the program to send an email message on detection of a change. And this is great if I'm out and about, if I'm not at home. So the way you do that is first you must configure an email server. And if I click on this button, it's going to say, hey, your email server isn't configured, and it pops open this little window for me to fill out. So to do this, I need to put in my username. And notice that you need to have a username, a password, a server, and a port. The server name and the port default to Google defaults. So if you're using Google or Gmail, you don't need to change those. Otherwise, you will. The other thing to mention is I'm going to put in my password. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to type in some junk. I can say show. You can see I typed in some junk. Get rid of that. Put in my real password. And now that I've done this, my email server is configured. So now I can actually send email messages anytime a page change is detected. The other thing I can do is I can have one or more email addresses get notified for every site. Or if I just care about one particular site, I may just do the recipients on a particular line. So here if I click on recipients, now I can put in an email address right here. And now when this website changes, this email address will get an email. And the last thing I'll mention is there's actually a way to send text messages via email. And it's a little tricky. There is up here in the help, there is a link to how to send text messages via email. Basically, you just choose a particular nice address. For me, my cell phone is T-Mobile, so I could say 555-555-1212 at tmomail.net. It's not my real number, of course. But this email address would then arrive at my cell phone as a text because it's in the right format. If you go to the help menu and go to that page, you'll see here, in fact, I'll do it now, how to send a text message using email. It pops you up onto this page, and you can check that out on your own. The other thing to mention is when you're configuring your email server, this only works, your regular username and password only work if you don't have two-step authentication turned on. If if you do have two-step authentication turned on, you'll have to do something special in order to get a app password to populate the password field here. And again, in the help menu, there's a how to get a Google app password for a Google account with two-step authentication. So again, you click on that, it brings you to a Google page that tells you exactly how to do that. You would use this process to generate a password, which you would then put into the email server configuration. One other thing to mention is installing WinMerge is a really good move for you because, one, it's an awesome program that allows you to diff text files. It's amazing. And two, if you do decide to configure email, if you have WinMerge installed, your email will include an attachment which shows an HTML version of the diffs. So if you successfully install WinMerge and you configure your email server, your email recipients will receive an email that includes not only the name of the URL that's changed, but an attachment which includes those changes. So that's very powerful, especially if you're on the road and you really want to see what changed. So that pretty much is a crash course on how to use WebWatch. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you come up to help, you can have access to my acting page or my law page. And at some point, I'll have a developer page. If you find a bug, click on help. I found a bug. Oh, so up in the help menu, we can see here what version of the program we're running. We can click on overview. That gives us a nice summary of everything I talked about today and more. And there's also videos on YouTube, like this video will find its way to YouTube. And if you find a bug in the software, you can click on this and it gives you some ways to contact me. You can send an email to bluminator@hotmail.com and describe the issue, and I'll do my best to respond. Please note that I do not support helping people get passwords for two-step authentication Google accounts. That's not my job. There's resources on the web, including one that I've pointed you to, and I don't support sending text messages via email. There's an article that tells you exactly how to do that. If your cell provider is listed on that email, you're all set. If it's not, you're out of luck. You'll just have to do some Googling to see if you can't find the info. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the program.